Hi people. So this is a little bit different from my usual political videos, but I have spoke about the subject before regarding dating. And just a few disclaimers. Obviously, the things I'm talking about is from a personal perspective. Um, this isn't a case of one size fits all. So someone watching this might have had a very different experience, and I totally understand and respect that. Um, no one's experience is more or less legitimate than someone else's. So I know that the things I'm talking about, someone else may have seen it. They may have seen the online dating approach or the conventional dating approach from a different perspective. So that's a very important thing with dating. Everyone has a unique experience. Um, Nevertheless, I think it's useful to talk a bit about this. ITV had a report on the fact that more young people are now turning off apparently online dating. I'm not really surprised by that, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about this conventional dating versus online dating. So let's have a very brief look at the history of online dating. I think it's fair to say that online dating apps grew with the growth of the internet in the mid 1990s. I mean, I'm talking in terms of it being publicly accessible as a mainstream thing. Think eHarmony, unless I'm mistaken, was founded in 1999. Might have been '01. Can't quite recall. But let's say about the late 1990s, that's when online dating sites started appearing. They grew rapidly in the 2000s and throughout the 2010s. But now in the 2020s, they're once again seeing a sort of decline and people are going back to that conventional approach, apparently. I didn't look at the ITV report in detail, I should say, but apparently that's what's happening. Now, I've covered this subject before, not so much from the conventional dating perspective, but from my experience of online dating. And I think I'm in a reasonable position to talk about this because I've experienced both worlds. My first two girlfriends I met them through conventional dating. My first girlfriend ever, I met at a social club that I was going to at the time. Um, my second girlfriend, I met at a party. So that was how I met them. It was kind of conventional approaches. Now, I'll just say that I've never been a fan of meeting people in bars. The reason being, I just don't like bars anyway, really. I'm not a Puritan. I like a drink as much as the next person. I like music. I like house parties. I like that sort of thing. But bars, I just find I was discussing this with someone on the ITV thread, and he was making the point of if you have confidence, you can meet women in bars. But it's not about confidence, it's about the environment for me. Because how can you get to know someone if you can't even hear what they're saying? Literally. I find a lot of bars just blast the music, and I don't think I'm relatively young. I like to do exciting things, but I just don't like the atmosphere of a bar. So for me, that's just not appealing at all. Um, Even if you were looking for something more serious. And then I do think that most people who flirt in bars, most guys that do that, they want to do just that, to flirt, to have a one night stand. And I'm not judging that, each to their own, but I am skeptical that many people would be looking to find a lifetime partner in a bar. That's hard to believe. Maybe some do, but I think it's hard to believe. Um, Now, with an online dating site, one thing you could be sure of is that whether people are looking to flirt or whether they're looking for a long-term relationship, no one can say, no one could be surprised if someone approaches them because there is a purpose there. It's called a dating site for a reason. So, for example, no one could turn around and say, "Why are you talking to me? I've got a boyfriend." Or it takes away that awkwardness at least. Now, you do get, like I've said in the previous videos I made on this subject, there are a huge amount of frustrations with online dating. Actually, I mentioned some caveats. I should mention the big one. As it stands now, in November 2024, I'm not single. I have a girlfriend, and I met her through online dating. The catch is that she's on the other side of the world, but we are in a serious relationship. I've met her. I have been to her home country. I don't think she'll mind me saying this. I might we might have an argument if she finds this video, but I think she'll be okay with it. I went to the Philippines in summer to meet her family, and so it's that was extremely important to me because meeting someone with online dating, I never had the idea of, well, I've got an online girlfriend, and that's it is technically a long distance relationship. Point is, we have plans for her to come to the UK, and it's something that we both take very seriously. We discuss all the time, in-depth issues about life and about future plans and so on. So I think it's certainly there are practical issues to that because of the distance, but it's something I take very seriously. And I really value her. I think she's a sincere person. I've got to know her now over 18 months. Um, and there is still future questions, and certainly not things that I would go into great detail here in the video. But the point I'm making is I was on the verge of giving up online dating. Anyone who remembers my videos from a few years ago will know how frustrated I was by a lot of the dead ends that you face and a lot of the time wasting and the experience of ghosting I had and things like that. And that's all true, that did happen. But I I was on the verge of giving up. I really was. And then she replied to me and we spoke and we got to know each other. And and long after my membership expired, I'm still in touch with her. In fact, I spoke to her earlier today. It's not a conventional relationship in the sense that, with a conventional relationship, you're hanging about with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend, you're doing things together all the time. With a long distance relationship, I guess I could equally make a video about that, but there are challenges. Obviously, the only way you can communicate, you've no choice, is online. But like I say, the hope is that she will come to this country. Um, but I do want to challenge one idea regarding conventional dating versus online dating. I think there's a misconception, I would call it misconception, that conventional dating is more in depth, it's more sincere, it's more, people say things like, oh, you get to know the person better. Well, not necessarily. I mean, yes, you get a lot of time wasters on online dating. Yes, you've got a lot of dead ends. Yes, it takes huge patience. But being stood up, I mean, luckily I was fortunate. I never experienced that. But, the film Gregory's Girl, British film from the 80s, it had a scene where Gregory, the main character, he's he's supposed to be on a date with like the hot girl in the school. She's like kind of hence the title of the film. And she basically stands him up and she sort of gives a half apology the next day. But I remember in that movie thinking, Gregory just takes it. It's a bit like she was very inconsiderate in that scene. Anyway, the point I'm making is that's a film from the 80s. People were let down in the past. People had time wasters in the past. People had to deal with insincere, shallow people in the past as well. Um, so I don't think it's true that just because people are now maybe going back to a more conventional approach, that guarantees they're not going to face time wasters as well. Or, I mean, I was chatting to one of the women on the thread, and she said that she met a man through online dating. He claimed he was 5'9" and he was actually a lot shorter than that. So if he's prepared to lie about that, what else would he lie about? And I responded to her like that's a legitimate concern. That's a legitimate question. What's to say that a man you went on a conventional date with, maybe you met him as a work colleague or through a friend or something, what's to say that he wouldn't seem to be a nice guy at first and then end up being a womanizer or even abusive? So I really don't think that there's a huge difference in personalities between people who go to online dating versus people who go for more for a conventional approach. I really don't think there's a massive difference. Just that online dating obviously has been utilized in this digital world. Um, there is frustration for both approaches, for sure. But anyone who thinks that online dating is just for kind of sad, introverted people, that is a very big misconception as well, because for one thing, millions of people do it. And for another thing, one of the reasons, aside from the growth of the internet, that online dating grew in the first place was because Um, people don't always get the opportunities to just meet someone in a bar. I mean, I've said my personal reasons for being skeptical about that, but let's say I was even to meet someone in, well, the social club, for example, where I met my first girlfriend, it closed. So that was something that was no longer a place where there were opportunities to meet people. The party where I met my second girlfriend, the guy that organized that party and his little entourage, all they're gone now. They've moved on. So, life circumstances change, jobs change. You meet different people. So opportunities don't always just present themselves. Um, it might work in particular places. Maybe in London, there's always a social scene. Although they do say big cities can sometimes be the loneliest places, so that's a flip side to it. But I really, really don't believe that people are fundamentally different who date online versus dating in the so-called real world. I say so-called because I do think you could get shallow people in conventional dating as well. Absolutely. Um, and like I say, I was on the verge of giving up online dating. And what do we have? We have a situation where I am with someone now. I trust her. I like her, more than like her. And she's someone I met on the site when I was on the verge of giving up. It just proves that there are sincere people out there. Um, so yeah, there's not much more to say really, but I've experienced both, and there are pros and cons to both. This is by no means meant to be really defensive of online dating. I know the frustrations that it presents. I think men and women face somewhat different pressures. I mean, for men, I would say that men are expected to make the first move, and so guys have to they literally have to send out lots of messages just to get a response. But for women who get a lot of messages, they might think, well, do these guys only want one thing, or who can I trust? So there's pressure and frustrations, I think, in different ways for men and women. Um, I would say this though, if you're going into online dating and your heart isn't in it, then it's probably not for you. I'm actually, from an ethical perspective, I don't think you should really be on online dating. If you're, like, for example, if you're getting messages and you can't be bothered to respond, you're only going to end up, people will see that. They'll see that your heart isn't in it, and then you should save yourself time and not do it. I mean, one person I spoke to in this debate thread, she said she just doesn't like texting. But if you want to build up any communication in online dating, you kind of have to text in order to get I would always, for example, insist on having a video call so I could see she was who she said she was, and I could see that the person in the video is the same person in the profile picture. I would be not interested in someone who refused to do that after, not immediately, but after, say, several conversations. Um, so everyone needs to know their own limits and their own expectations. And there is compromise. Of course, there's compromise. You can't just make demands and make expectations of others if you aren't prepared to be considerate yourself. I think a lot of people go into online dating in a selfish way, men and women. Um, just having expectations and not realizing that if you're making all these, I was always put off profiles by saying, I expect the guy to be like this, I expect the guy to, I'm thinking, okay, that's all fine, that's all legitimate. But what are you giving him in reassurance in return? How does he know that he's going to message you and not have his time wasted, that you won't bother following up? Or what's to say you won't just ghost him or do, something like that? I actually came across one profile and she literally said in her profile, I will respond to anyone who takes time and effort to message me. And it was a barefaced lie because she didn't. Um, so that was, you do get people like that, selfish and inconsiderate, but I would argue you get them in the outside, in conventional dating as well. Anyway, that's it. It's something for people to think about. I'd like to hear perspectives in the comments from men and women. And I'm not saying like I know everything. I'm right about this. I'm just being honest about my own experiences. This is subjective. It does depend on what people have been through themselves. Someone might have been through conventional dating and had a wonderful experience. But my own experience as it stands is that the longest relationship I've had, the happiest so far, which I'm in right now, has been through online dating. And I don't want to say anything I've said about it, but I would make a point for anyone who wants to dismiss it completely. There are good people out there, and people do meet their partners through online dating. It does happen. Um, so I wouldn't totally dismiss it. To me, that's a bit like blaming social media for all of society's problems. It's ridiculous. Online dating does take patience, it does have frustrations, but if people go into it with genuine intentions, and if they're prepared to put a little bit of effort into it, um, then sooner or later they will find a like-minded person. And that's what I found. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the comments. I will try my best to respond to them here. Um, Specifically about online dating, I can't say so much about the conventional thing. Like I say, my first two girlfriends were one from a social club, one from a party. But if anyone has any questions about online dating, please put them there. For example, if you're thinking of signing up to a site and you want to ask me questions, someone who's been through it, like 2 years I was on those sites, do ask, because believe me, I've got a lot of experience, a lot of stories to tell. So I'll be very happy to try and, I mean, it will just be my experience, but it's just worth, I'm not one to really advise people unless I ask for it. I would say this though, if you're not paying for the site, if it's a free site, expect it to be much lower quality. There is definitely a difference between sites that you pay for and sites that you don't. I mean, I've seen that. There were a few free sites, and I signed up to one, and within 20 minutes, I had about 20 or 30 beautiful women sending me messages. And you know what? I did not get excited. I did not feel flattered because I thought this is complete BS. There's no way these are sincere messages. And I'm not an idiot. So I thought, yeah, that's just sucking you in to try and pay up for the premium service by getting these models to pretend to be. It was just nonsense. Um, but sites that you pay for will take some patience, but you will find usually there's more depth to them. Anyway, that's it. Feel free to ask questions in the comment section. I'll try and get back to people. I'm not saying I know everything, but I've had a bit of experience. If anyone wants to leave their own stories, their own situations, please do. And I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.